So let's talk about some of the non-financial things. So what's the perception, particularly in the Black community as women? You know, this is unusual. My children went to private school, very kind of wealthy schools. The majority of the women there did not work. And as a Black woman, they were white. So it never occurred to me, you know, that we were equals or peers. So I was like, oh, that's normal for them, not normal for me.
Right.
And so what's that perception like as you are about in the world? And, you know, because most Black women I know work.
Right. So my husband, I said, works in the financial space. At one of his previous companies, he was one of the only African-American financial members of his district. And so when we go to company functions, I would be amongst, you know, white women, as you said, who didn't work. And they would come, so do you work outside the home?
That was a common question.
Right.
Ask every chance. And I would get offended, not knowing that was foreshadowing.
Right.
And when I had the opportunity to finally stay home and I would talk to Black friends, Black females, the conversation would be, oh, I could never do that. I could never depend on a man. I was like, well, what does a man have to do with it? I'm home with my kids.
Right.
You know, so the conversation would be different, very much different. Is if it kind of, if you didn't have tough skin, you would think that it was
Bad.
putting you down or
Right.
bad. So that's, and then amongst our friends, it's a mixed crowd. Some of our friends are at the space now where their wives are considering staying home. They're high up in corporate America, but they're burnout, you know, when they get home. So it's mixed right now.
What about for the people who say, well, you know, your kids are in school now. Like, why do you need to be home? That's just for people, you know, who have babies in daycare.
I think it's harder now than when they were babies.
Absolutely agree with you.
Me too.
I would flip it in a second if I know better.
Because I'm on their schedule at this point.
Right.
I have to keep up. Where am I supposed to? It's Monday.
Do they pay us stuff for that?
Right. I'm taxi. I'm Lyft, Uber, schedule planner. I'm the operations manager.
Right. Literally. Right.
Yes.
Right.
I have to think, do I have a free day today?
Right.
I just go pick up, come home. Do I have anything else I'm missing?
Yeah.
So I think it's harder now.
Yeah. And my children are grown, and I think high school was the hardest. That to me was more work than any other time. And so I just think for women who are aspiring to do it, just because you have kids in elementary school or middle school, I think the work season is coming. So just something to plan towards, you know, and that's when our children are making decisions that are very costly too. And so that's why I really wanted to be more present as my children got older to hover, because I'm like, not on my watch. Like it's not going down this way.
Okay.
Like what's happening when your child is 8? But what is your 16-year-old doing? Whole different ball game.
Making decisions behind your back.
Absolutely. Anna, you have any other questions?
Right now, I'm over here creating my master plan in my head. So I'm just like, okay, so I need to do this. But I think I would be similar to you as far as like I'm thinking about whether my side hustles would look like, you know, to keep me being able to do whatever those things are that I would like to be able to do. And I don't care about what nobody talking about. If they mad at me, you're going to have to just get over that, because I'm living, like, anytime I hear somebody, like I know our kids go to the same school, and we went on a field trip, and another parent, I was like, oh, what do you do? We were just talking, and she was like, oh, I'm a stay-at-home mom. I was like, for real? Like, I was fascinated. I was like, so, like, what is that like? She's like, it's amazing. I was like, trying to be like you when I grow up. Like, it was so, inspirational to me. So, just, again, I've known Chantel for a minute, so to be able to hear and see, I'm just trying to see how to have a balance of the two. I don't know if I still want the part-time work. I need some of that for who I am, I think, as an individual.
Right.
But I'm working on my plan.
And I still do things outside, or I have the option.
Right.
I haven't exercised the tax preparation option in a while, but it's always an option.
I love that.
So what about stay-at-home dads? Because, we're hearing and we're reading so much more about that now. Based on your life, do you see that more?
I do not, but I have a cousin
who's
raised, similar to me.
Mm-hmm.
He's an actor, but when he's not working, he's home with his kids.
Okay. So him and his wife have some sort of system or commitment that they have.
Yes.
Okay.
And once again, they don't live in Georgia. They live in California.
Okay.
So
it's different.
It's very different. So, and they have younger kids than mine. They're 2 and 3 or
that sounds
4
like
and 5.
even more than $10,000 a year.
Yes. In California, yes.
Even more.
But other than that, I don't really know anyone.
So let's just talk about the narrative. I think it's important that we change the narrative or the perception as Black women about women who choose to stay home. So any advice, for a woman who's thinking about it and she's concerned or has already started getting the criticism, because she's been professional. She's, been very career aspirational. And now she's like, you know what? I think I want to kind of do something different.
Put a plan in place. You have to have thick skin again, and you just have to know who you are. I've never been a person that cared what other people thought, said. I'm going to do what's best for me.
Right.
Even as a little girl, and I see that in my daughter now.
Right.
So I just have to let her go on sometimes.
Right.
And say, just sit here for a minute, because I can see she's going to be strong-willed, just like her mother. And you just have to know this is what's best for me or my family at this time. And let people see that you don't just sit at home every day.
Mm-hmm. I think that's the misconception.
Daddy, I was going to ask you, what's an ideal day for you? If you
My alarm goes off at 5. I roll out the bed probably 5:30, 5:45. I need a buffer in between waking up the kids. I normally get them up at 6, but Evan, my strong-willed son, has been pushed back to 5:45 because he'll sit in the bed an extra 15 minutes.
Right,
and
he needs a little time.
He needs time to get out the bed. I get the kids up, we get dressed, breakfast, and I drop them off. Sometimes I'll go do a part-time position. I've picked up subbing. I volunteer at the school all the time.
Which is beautiful.
Plan activities at school. So I'll do something in between. My daughter is a competitive gymnast, so I have to be at the school normally by 1 o'clock on gym days because she goes to Fayetteville, Peachtree City, which is an hour away from the school. So I have to be the first one in line to get her in order to get home, change, and get to where we need to be.
So then you get home around what time?
On gym days, it's after 6, closer to 7. So when I leave my house at 12, 1 o'clock, I don't get back home to 7.
So you may get 3 hours to yourself.
Yes.
Maybe
At best,
3.
right.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So ladies, we not doing anything. You're talking about 3 whole hours.
Right.
Like
Yes.
this is more than the job. Like 3 whole hours to yourself. And that's still
just,
doing things.
That's just her. Because
Right.
my son, he has activities after school, appointments, just managing his schedule. So it's not like you sit at home all day. Some days I'll stay at home and say, okay, I'm going to work on cooking or whatever so that I can either pre-pack food to eat in the car,
Right.
which my husband hates, or I'm going to go on and do something else. In 2019, I turned my passion for travel into a travel business, and that has picked back up. So I'll set 1 or 2 days a week aside to do that, work on travel. And hopefully those days don't coincide with gym days because I try to get a nap, maybe in carpool
Right.
What
or
you
something
need.
to that nature. Yes.
An hour drive to and from, you need a nap.
Yes.
So how do you spend the additional time you have with your family that women who work full or part-time may not have the opportunity to?
Travel. We travel. Volunteer at least once or twice a year. They now go on something. Spring break is their time.
Okay.
So as a part of my travel business, I try to do something educational during spring break. I don't
That's
do
fine.
the typical beach.
Right. Oh, that's fine.
I try to go somewhere that no one is going. So we travel. If they say, well, Mommy, I want to go here after school, I have to look at the schedule. We fit it in. Or we go outside and play. It's not like I'm getting home at 5 o'clock. We have to eat. You
Right.
have to go to bed.
Homework,
You have
right.
to do homework.
Right.
It's like you get 30 minutes to play, or we go do something fun. We're not pressed for time. We
Okay.
spend more time with each other.
Yeah. One thing I can say as an entrepreneur that particularly when my kids were in high school, my schedule gave me the flexibility to be very present in all things
Yes.
related to school. And I think that definitely gave us an advantage with our kids because we knew exactly what was going on. We had that interaction with the
Teachers,
staff and the
yes.
teachers. So I think it made a huge difference. And I think it did. It gave me a lot of peace. I think that's probably one of the happiest times in my life too. But it was definitely a trade-off though of my schedule, how to make that all work. But to be able to make them a priority and be that engaged definitely meant a lot.
Right.
One thing that I was just thinking about, since you're the stay-at-home mom, your husband works, how do you all handle household things, cooking, cleaning? Like, is that all your job? Do you all share things?
We share.
Okay.
My kids most people would say they are self-sufficient.
Love
They've been
that.
self-sufficient since they were babies.
Love it.
They make their own beds. They clean their own rooms. My son is old enough now where we're training to clean the bathroom.
Right.
I don't use your restroom, bathroom. We work together to clean that
Okay.
with them. So they wash dishes. Everybody has a task. And my husband has implemented paychecks, so that incentive
Right.
helps a lot. 'Cause they was like, you said I could fold the clothes. Because they know if I fold them,
They don't get any
they're
income.
not getting paid.
Oh, I love that.
So-
Little competition over housework.
Yeah, my kids, those clothes, they don't care if they're getting paid or not. They would just look, they like,
No.
They do 'em, but they do
depending
'em
on what
sad.
it is, I don't have to tell them. If I'm cooking, of course, I'm going to clean as I go.
Right.
But if if I've cooked and they've eaten, no, Mommy, you don't have to do that.
Okay.
I'll take care of that. Where's my chore chart? I did this. So
I love it. I love it.
I love the fact that you and your husband have certain things that you're both responsible for, so that way it doesn't have to become an issue.
right.
Do you ever feel, or have you ever felt burnt out as a stay-at-home mom?
No. Because if I need to take a break, I just say, no, we're not going here. No, we're not
Love
doing
that.
this. Sundays are usually the only day that I don't have anything that I have to do, anywhere that I have to be. So usually they know
Don't talk to me on Sunday.
I'm not going outside.
Right.
I'm not going to a friend's house. It's probably going to be no.
Right.
So what about your self-care routine as a stay-at-home mom? What do you do to treat
I
yourself?
use travel as my self-care. I go on solo vacations.
Do you?
Yes.
Nice.
Do you do staycations?
The pandemic I did.
Okay.
Probably 2 or 3.
I love it.
Because
Love that.
everyone was home.
Right.
All the time.
And my kids were virtual. Both kids were
Yeah.
virtual for a year and a half. So staycations, solo vacations.
And that's a priority, it sounds like.
Yes.
So ladies, to stay at home does not mean
Right.
burn yourself out at the house.
Right.
It does still mean take care of yourself.
And I still go out with friends. When the pandemic hit, we did trunk meetings in the cul-de-sac.
Right.
Meetings. That is too cute.
Right.
Because we all have trucks. So
Like we did at the office.
Right.
Right.
So
Oh.
we all had trucks. We
Right.
lift up the hood.
Right.
We sat out. Because we hadn't seen each other in 2-3 months when the
Right.
pandemic
Right.
started. And we were all in the house with kids. So
Love
did
it. You seem like you have a really good balance. I think that's what I'm most impressed by.
Yeah.
Typically, overachievers, you overachieve at work and then you become an overachiever at home.
Right.
yes.
And you burn out real quickly. But it sounds like you found that balance with the support of your husband, the kids having responsibilities, And again, like you say, knowing yourself, what
Yes.
you're going to do and what you're not going to do.
Right.
Being very clear. So I've taken that, if I haven't taken anything, is all that's still important, even if you're not working outside the home.
Right. And this year was a milestone birthday, so I implemented, in addition to no, if it doesn't have anything to do with me, my mantra this year was not my monkey, not my circus.
Right.
Because that's less pressure on me trying to take on other people's duties, responsibilities, and issues.
Right.
If it doesn't affect me and my circle, that doesn't have anything to do with me. I'm not going out looking for it. I'm not asking follow-up questions.
Right.
If you want me to know the information, you'll tell me.
Right. Now, I love it. And my takeaways really have been the commitment to the discipline, the commitment to the strategy, the reevaluating the strategy. And I also feel like there has to be a tremendous amount of communication with you and your husband to be this effective. You know, to have this much order and peace, you all have to have a really good rhythm. But that doesn't happen automatically. You have to create that.
Right.
You definitely have to create that.
Because sometimes, it wasn't always the best. When we started out, it was a learning curve because neither one of us had been in this situation before.
Right.
So it's gotten better over the years.
So if you don't mind sharing, what was one of the learning, like the early learning curves that you're talking about that you guys experienced? You're like, ooh.
Expectations, because I went from working and doing XYZ to now being home. So clearly setting or not setting expectations, because I think when you put expectations on people and they don't live up to them, then it becomes a problem.
Yeah.
The disappointment happens, and then it's hard to get over the disappointment. So if you just communicate what the need is versus I expect you, because no, I'm teaching my kids that as well. People don't have to do anything for you. If you want them to do it, you ask them to do it and let them do it out of the kindness of their heart, or allow them to do it. But don't expect people to do anything for you. So getting over the expectation hump and just communicating what it is you need.
I like that. So if you had to do it again, what kind of conversation would you had in the beginning about over expectations or
just in general?
Or just in general with your husband?
I didn't expect this to be a long
Right.
I didn't expect this to be a long-term thing.
Right.
It's just worked out that way.
Okay.
So how long do you plan to stay home? Do you want to stay while they're in elementary school? Because the expectation for me was I was just trying to get out of this daycare cycle and the cost of daycare. And then once we were free and clear, my expectation was
to go
I
back.
was going back to work. It didn't work out that way because daycare increased. Now you're not paying daycare. Now you're paying after school, and that's almost double per child what we were paying for daycare 10, 11 years ago.
Right.
So.
That's interesting. Like, how long did you plan to do this? Like, even having that conversation.
Because that's what I was going to ask you. Do you plan to go back to work?
I have been looking, but as I told my husband, when it's time for me to move or go somewhere, the table will be set. It hasn't worked out.
Okay. But you're open to it, though.
I've been open to it.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. No, I love that. I love that freedom, too. You know what I mean? I can feel that in you. I appreciate that. Any other last questions, Ani, as a mom of young kids, so you can get your strategy together?
I'm working on it. Hold on. The biggest thing, I was literally sitting here thinking, I didn't know her background was business information systems. And I don't know if you recall when we they're like the dangerous, because they know enough about technology, enough about business and processes where they make them. I'm like, how can we work with you? That's what I was up here thinking. Honestly, like, how could we work together? But no, I'm always been inspired by you, and I appreciate you just sharing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate you for having me.
Thank you, Chantel, for coming today. So for the Thank Me Later community, this was our In Real Life session on how to turn your stay-at-home mom dream into a reality. And I want you to know that it's possible, but there's some work that you have ahead of you. And sounds like it's going to be some continuous work.
Yes.
But I'm just happy to know that it's possible. So please continue to engage with us within the community, of course, at thankmelater.money, but also on social media at TML Money and, of course, at Janai Thornton. And we would love to have ideas from you. Any other life things, situations that you have going on that you really need us to cover, we would certainly love to know about that too. So thank you for tuning in to Thank Me Later Real Life. Y'all have an amazing day.